So the reality is that healing should be and almost always is painful. Like, I know that can be a shock to hear and shock to understand, but the truth of that, the reality there, is that we choose what's easy because it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to sit and just let things be, but it does hurt to choose to identify the pain and work on it and grow through it. Healing isn't a linear thing, and it's not something that we'll ever have completely figured out because it's the stages of our lives, but the truth is that it hurts. So in this episode, we were looking at the mountain of healing. And I know that's like one of the hardest mountains for a lot of us because it's a consistent thing. Like, this is something that will always pop up into our story. It'll always pop up into how we live life. It'll always pop up into how we respond, how we allow people to love us or be present to us. It's one of those things that isn't quick. And I think we shy away from this because we've been so accustomed to our pain that we've just accepted it. We've just created it as a part of our life. And there's a lot to say there, a lot to unpack in that reality, but I need you to understand that the hurt you is not the version of you are meant to be. Like the one that suffers and consistently lives in what's happened to them and usually reverts to that and says that this is why I am the way I am, or uses it to justify why they're afraid to do anything else. That version of you is not the version of you that's meant to thrive or to be alive. It's the version of you that's trying to stay so that you, who you actually are, doesn't flourish. And when we address healing, I need you to understand that there is no one way. Like, there's so many different paths of people get to this point. There's so many things that we will constantly need to heal through. There are certain wounds in our lives that end up being a part of our life, but we either have it as a part of the story as to what's happened, that why I did what I could do, or we make it the excuse as to why I couldn't do the things I did. We tend to hide behind those wounds because we've given them so much authority. The whole goal with this episode is to tell you, to empower you, to grow you into the fact that wound exists, but that wound does not define you. That wound, yes, it's something that's happened to you. It's been a part of your life, but this thing that's happened is not you. It's the thing that has been present there, and knowing how to address that and how to speak into it and really just unpacking the reality of that truth, it's what we need to do. And everyone, there's not a single person that lives life and doesn't have some type of wound or won't have some type of wound. There's something emotional, relational, or financial, literally something in your life that has been a roadblock. And what it is identifying it. Now, I want to be clear. No matter who speaks to you, you can speak to 1,000 different therapists. You can read 1,000 self-help books. You can hear all the podcasts you want to hear. But if you don't do anything, you can't say that nothing's changing. Yes, you might have heard the words, but it means nothing to know the things if you don't have the action behind it. It doesn't mean anything to know that this thing exists and know how to identify it and know what it sounds like and what it looks like, but refuse to take the actionable steps to change it. Great, you have a lot of knowledge and no action. Now what? Now it hurts more because now you know what you should do and still don't do it. So what I'm getting at that is that you need to be clear on you. You need to decide to change these things first before anything else. Yes, it's great that you're listening to things or reading things or all this, but it's more important that you do things. It's not enough to just sit here and hear nice words without actual actions. When we heal, when we grow, there's a pain that's there. There's a step and stages of pain. And I always equate this. Whenever I talk about healing, I talk about my labrum. On my right shoulder. I have a torn labrum and I can't throw anymore. And what happened to me is that I was in a baseball game, and long story short, I'm Dominican, of course. So all Dominicans, we play baseball for some reason. And this coach, he didn't like me. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I ended up dating a girl in high school, and he always looked at her like a daughter or something like that, and it didn't rub him the right way, right? And granted, I was also like a freshman and she was a senior, no vamos a hablar de eso, pero we there. But I remember he put me in the game, and I was by far one of the best players in the team, and he benched me because of these things. So I was playing out of a place of frustration, and he put me in the game, and I wanted to show off. I was doing like stupid things, and I dove for a play, and I never played second base at that point, but I dove for a play, and I jammed my shoulder on the ground and tore my labrum. So from that point on, I wasn't able to play baseball anymore. Something I loved to do, something that was natural to me, something that I was the first one on the field, last one off, the thing that was a driving passion for me. But because I responded from a place of frustration, from a place of pain, I caused more wounding, more pain to myself than should have been. I created this actual pain that's physical that came from an emotional thing. Now, I tell this story often when I talk about healing because it's not so much that pain, yes, that reality that I did something out of frustration and that caused an even bigger problem. And sometimes we respond from frustration, we respond from our hurt, and we cause bigger issues. We don't think things through, so we end up hurting ourselves because we're trying to prove something to someone else. We're trying to throw it in their face. We're trying to use our gifting, our talenting to say to these people, look what you missed out on. And what you end up doing is hurting yourself more. Yes, that's a reality. But I actually look at this from the perspective of the therapy, because even though I didn't get the surgery, because surgery was apparently elective, I still went through the therapy process. And the most pain that I've ever felt was when I was trying to heal a torn labrum. We're trying to heal a muscle. We're trying to heal a bone or something that was out of place for so long. When you are going through that therapy, the thing that hurts the most is the actual therapy, is the thing that is healing you, is the process of you getting back to this place that you used to be in. Because that's the reality, that healing actually hurts. When we do the thing that was hurt, was the thing that was wounded, this part of us that was causing this problem, the therapy itself is going to be a process of pain, because now you have to revert to something that the muscle has been wounded and is not used to doing anymore. It's scared because of obvious tension, obvious pain, obvious things that are happening, but also the process of it. And knowing that you have to go and stretch and move and do all these things with your shoulder, and it's gonna hurt, and it has to be a process of that. A lot of people are afraid of the process. The reason that we don't heal is because we've become comfortable with not actually living in that process, by saying that, well, if I don't do this thing, I won't feel that pain. I won't have to address it. I won't have to change it. If I don't have to look at it, if I don't have to be in it, then I don't have to remember what's happened. For a lot of us, we're afraid of the therapy. We're afraid of the thing that's going to heal us. We struggle to heal because we are afraid to touch the wound. We're afraid to go near the thing that's hurting. We're afraid to do what we need to do in that place. And again, I use that therapy analogy, that just the movement of that. Now, it's always a tough one when we come to this mountain of healing, to understand that this mountain in front of me is something that is going to be challenging. And again, I love the crazy. I think this is such a great name for a podcast, because there is so much reality about mountains, about the struggles we face in them, about the things that we're seeing, the adversity that's found within that thing. But there is this beauty of success when you confront the thing that you have made a mountain in your life and actually overcome it. There is so much power in that ability. And anyone that's ever done something difficult, anyone that's ever had I'm a hiker, so I love it. Anyone that's had those kind of hikes where it's like you're in for hours and hours, but then you get to that mountaintop, you see that view, you see the thing that just was so worth the work. You don't remember the suffering. Like, yes, you know that it cost you work, but the moment you're there, it's just the satisfaction of completing that, of challenging yourself to this thing and doing something amazing. We have to understand that there's this beauty that happens after, right? So going through that therapy, going through that thing that addresses the wound, that says that this thing is there and I'm not going to shy away or deny it, going towards that is what's going to change everything. It's understanding this reality that I need to touch the wound for it to be healed. I need to go and do the therapy. I need to go and put myself through a process of it. And that's what we're unpacking here, right? This reality that we need to go through this. Now, the tough thing when we visit this one is that healing isn't linear. It's not something that you do something today and tomorrow another process and it's a straight line. There are moments of shifting, and there are moments and seasons of it either feeling heavy or feeling light while us going through that reality. It's the reality that this is a mountain. It's not a hill, right? So pace is important, but it doesn't mean that you use pace as an excuse. Like, one thing that a lot of people say is like, well, I'm in a healing stage, so they use that quote unquote pace as an excuse to not do anything. They'll say, well, yeah, it takes time. Yeah, I'm right. We're saying that right now, right? But we're not taking time and using time as a reason as to why you don't change. We're not saying, oh yeah, it takes time, so I'm just gonna not do anything. It's understanding that there's a pace and there's a step to it. It isn't forever, and for some people, they unpack there and they make that home. But when you do that, you are now giving that much more authority to the wound. You're now giving that much more authority to the thing that just shouldn't exist. So when we unpack this wound of healing, when we talk about healing, this mountain of healing, we talk about this reality that there are all these things that are happening there. We need to first understand that grief is a part of this. Like mourning what could have been, having that reality that you are no longer there. And I think a lot of people, especially with like relationship wounds, which seems to be like super common, and it is super common because it makes sense, right? Our heart's desire to love and to be loved. So it makes sense as to why that wound is so strong, so prevalent, because that is a wound that is common for a lot of people, but it's a desire of our heart. So for a lot of us, when it comes to this reality, we don't allow ourselves to grieve what we could have had. We don't allow ourselves to grieve the relationship. We don't allow ourselves to grieve the story that we made up in our mind that was there. So we don't actually heal from it because we're still in this denial of what's real. Like we are sitting through this pain of grief without understanding that grief is a process. And it's not a process that, again, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's something that we need to learn to identify as we go along, knowing that our brains believe this story, right? You have to rewire your brain. You're knowing that you have created this narrative, you created a future, you created all these things in this particular situation, and now you have to grieve the death of that. Now you have to go through grief and understand that thing is not there. And the sad thing about grief is that it comes in waves. And this is grief from everything, but again, from that particular mountain is relationships, but even grief like in friendships, right? In romantic relationships or platonic friendships, those things. Even with friendships, I don't think we talk enough about the reality that it does hurt to lose a friendship. Like it does hurt to sit here and realize that certain people can't come into the next chapters of your life. It hurts to sit and think that there are certain people who you've seen and imagined in your life in the most sincere and soft ways possible, but knowing that now these people no longer belong there. There's a grief in letting those things go and healing from that, because I know that we want those people there. There's no situation where you see someone that you love genuinely in your life and have so much respect for or so much admiration for, and then have to realize that they don't fit in this next stage, that they're not a part of the thing that's supposed to be healed in you. And I know letting that go has to be harder than most relationships, right? Most romantic relationships, because that is a reality. That's not something that you ever saw. That you couldn't have perceived that thing being there. But sometimes we don't heal from those things because we haven't allowed ourselves to fully grieve it and bury it, to sit and realize that this thing is no longer present. And you don't have to bear the weight on yourself. And I think this is so important to understand, that you don't have to bear the weight on yourself for failed relationships, whether it's your family members or romantic or platonic, whatever. You don't have to sit here and take on the whole load of what that thing was, because healthy relationships require more than one person. Like if this relationship would have been healthy, it would have been something that you would have done with another person, not just alone, because that's the point of a relationship. Right, we're working together towards this thing. It doesn't dismiss work. It doesn't dismiss hard times. It doesn't dismiss these things that are going to come and happen. But it does require two people to be a part of it. If the relationship you have with those people, it's going to require them. And if you're the only one in it, I need you to understand that you were freed from something. For a lot of us, we struggle with relationships because we think we have to be the best person possible for it to survive. And you should be the best effort of you. But if they can't help you and support you in your bad stages, then that's not a healthy relationship. That's a beneficial relationship when it's only beneficial to them. And I'm not justifying bad behavior and stupidity and all these things. I am saying, however, that some people can't love you fully because they don't love you in the worst versions of you. They only love the version of you that is beneficial to them. What can I get from you? That's not a healthy relationship. And knowing that, understanding that, and being able to grieve the good things, and then realizing that you're not the only one that has to bear the weight, allows you to see things from a clear point. We need to understand that it's okay to grieve and to let go. That pain is a part of the healing process. That the same way that we have to grow to have growing pains is the same way that we have to allow people to leave and to walk away and to be where they need to be, so that we can now detach from those things. There's a myth, right, that we have to get over it. There's this reality of getting over it versus letting it be integrated into your life. Healing isn't about forgetting or erasing what happened. And I think that's the biggest struggle, that we think that as we heal that we need to forget. And that's not necessarily true, because it's hard to forget things. It's hard to sit here and tell yourself that that's a lie and rewire your brain and all these things. These are things that you could do naturally, right? You could do by again speaking and telling yourself this reality. But forgetting doesn't mean that you're healed, right? Just because you don't remember something doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just because I don't remember the impact of the moment or how I felt when I hurt my shoulder, it doesn't mean that my shoulder isn't hurt. It exists. The pain is real and it's prevalent, but it doesn't mean that you have to sit here and allow it to continue to hold. Yes, you don't forget, because again, you're not going to lose your memory. But you don't allow your memory to dictate your emotions. You don't allow what's happened to you to dictate the steps that you take. You don't allow your past to be the reason why you don't have a good and happy and fruitful future. I think a lot of us are struggling with that component, right? When we say this, when we say healing, we talk about moving on and growing, we think that we have to somehow forget, that you have to erase the memories of the things that have happened, that you have to sit here and justify those things. That's not the case. When you are healing, we are now adapting to the places that we're in. So what I mean by that is that yes, you don't forget, and yes, you don't let it control, but now you know certain things and certain places and certain actions that you shouldn't take. The biggest or the worst, I think, the worst thing you could ever do is have something happen to you and you not learn from it and you not grow from it, you not take something from it. Why? Because at that point, that thing happened to you in vain. Like, if you didn't learn something from that, there was no wisdom for you in it. And wisdom is exactly that, is understanding that these things have happened and then taking the tools that have come out of it. Maybe it's the how you communicate, or maybe it's the fact that you no longer deal with people in certain aspects, or you don't sell yourself short in certain ways. It's when we take something productive from it. It's about learning how to integrate your story so it's no longer controlling your identity or your future. It's not letting it be the reason why you didn't do things. It's using it again as the reason why you did. It's the catalyst to everything good and productive and fruitful. I think we fail to do those things well because we've given ourselves this lie that forgetting is just naturally going to happen, that we are just going to one day wake up happy, healed, and forgotten of that whole situation. It's not. It's also not a realistic thing to expect. But learning to not let the memories control the emotions. I think this is the big takeaway from that. Not letting what has happened control what happens next. I've seen it so many times. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, believe it or not, and it's a huge impact as to the positive things that people move into. Because an example, without giving too much information, I've had a friend who shared with me once that their previous relationships have tainted completely their view on the other sex, right? They completely tainted how they see people, how they respond to the relationship. They think that everything is a lie. So the way they see that is that they feel that the emotions that the person is portraying, or the words that they're saying, or the actions that they're taking is all manipulative, because in their mind, the people that they have dealt with before have been so bad that it must be everyone. And so they don't forget that component. They think that this is just a natural thing with everyone else, and it creeps into every relationship, and that's why they have not had a successful relationship ever. They've never grieved. They've never let go. They never healed from this thing that's happened to them before. So what they do is that they transfer that over. There's a old saying, which what you don't transfer, you will transmit. What you don't change in you, you will transmit into the next thing. And if it's in relationships, the things that you don't heal in you, you will see in the next place. You will bring that into this next thing. So what you're doing is that you're not dating new people, you're just dating the same person in different bodies. You are trying to fix and heal something you couldn't fix and heal in someone else. And in these next things, in these next stages, in these next steps, you end up hurting yourself so much more because you haven't healed from a memory or from a wound, from an action of a person that already impacted you. and now you are trying to save them everywhere else. I need you to understand that it is okay to let go of people. I know it hurts. I know this is the hard part of forgetting and not letting them control the narrative. I know that it's difficult to do and it's easy to say, but you will live in the same exact wound for the rest of your life because you refuse to step into what's real. Not everyone is the same. And there's certain things that we need to address about that. When we're talking about wounds and going back to places and to people that we have given authority to, that is going to be the hardest level of accountability we will ever live. Why? Because you have to sit here and say, what is it about me that is allowing me to be in these situations again? That's causing me this pain and this struggle and making me think it's okay to just unpack there, to continuously be there, to be present to that. The hardest part of all that is accountability. I think knowing first that it's not that I have to get over something, is that I have to be accountable for the things that I'm letting get in under me. I have to be accountable for the things that I'm choosing to go back to, or things that I've made a ceiling or a roadblock in my life, because that is the thing that I haven't healed from. And I need you to understand that your pain deserves a seat at the table. Right? It's not, but it shouldn't be the head of it, right? Yes, it deserves a seat. It should be a part of the story. It should be something you use to learn from, the wisdom that you got from it, something you use to make your next decisions, or your next steps, or the next things you do. But it's not the thing that's making and dictating all of your decisions. It shouldn't be the thing that tells you what to do or what not to do. We don't heal from these things because we don't allow ourselves to understand what was good from it. We just think that it is the whole thing that we're stuck in. So we create this imbalance rather, and we never actually grow. I know it hurts. I know this is like one of those man, I wish I didn't have to go through this. I wish I didn't have to feel this pain. I wish I didn't have to heal from this thing. But it's the best thing that you will ever do, because the reality is that everyone is going to hurt at some point. There is something in us that we're going to have to heal from. And again, it's not always relationships. I just think that's the easiest one and the most common one and the one that we hear the most and the most often. But there's always going to be something that we need to heal from. Whether it's a parental wound or it's a financial wound, a bad habit that I've picked up, whatever it is, there's always going to be something that we need to heal from. And when we learn to use our pain and our grief and all these things as tools, it changes how you respond to so many things. Now, me personally, I've struggled with my own things. I struggle with my own things now. I feel like one of the hardest things is that, especially when you're creating this kind of content, where people think that you have to have it all figured out. I don't. I feel like I know what, I'm grateful for the things that I don't have figured out. Like, I'm really grateful for the pains and the struggles that I have, because again, if you've heard any of my other episodes, you know that for me, faith is a huge thing. And it allows me to be rooted in my humanity, right? And know that I'm flawed and I'm broken and I make mistakes and I'm still hurt and I'm still healing and I'm still growing. But I've been able to see this tool, and that's why I honestly, I'm sure there's going to be more episodes specifically around this particular matter, because is one of my favorite things to talk about, because I think that when we understand this, we become the best versions of us. When we understand that you are imperfect, broken, and flawed, that you know that you are not this cookie cutter and everything is like exactly how it should be person, you're able to identify the things that you can grow from and grow through. And it doesn't become this lie about your life, because you're not portraying perfection, you're portraying reality. And I'm grateful for that. And again, like I said, my faith has always been a big thing, and it helps me just understand that is something in me that needs to be worked in. I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know where you're hearing this podcast from. I don't know what part of your life you feel like you need to grow or heal from, but I need you to understand that even in your imperfection of it, there's beauty in it. That there's purpose to the thing that's hurting you, because when we look at our pains, we know that we can turn pain into actual purpose. And that's why that's actually the slogan for this podcast. I think that's such a good tagline, because when you are able to identify pain, you're able to identify what you can grow from and what it can be used from. And I mentioned before, accountability being the biggest thing, right, when it comes to healing. And the reason why accountability is so big is to one, understand what role did I play in my wound. And I think a lot of us run away from that we don't look at the things that have happened to us. And in certain situations, right, there are certain situations that's out of your hand, out of your control. But there are other situations where we are a part of our own hurt, where we have to be accountable for the things that we did or didn't do, right? And that we are a part of that thing. But why accountability is so big is because it's our last point here, is because healing is returning to self-trust. It's learning to trust you. It's learning to trust that intuition, is learning to heal and grow and know that I have enough power, enough autonomy over myself to choose what's next. We struggle to heal because we blame ourselves. Like, why did that happen, or how could I be so dumb? And I think this is such a big one. Like, so many of us go through this reality where we will replay scenarios and sit in it and let that thing become the defining moment in us. And today alone, I did that myself. I will replay scenarios and sit in it and let those things sit there. But the difference is that the more I've grown in this, the more I've been able to address that. And I want to give you this tool. I think this is a very important one. If you lasted this whole podcast episode, this is the best part of it all. The tool is being able to know what you're saying and know what you're replaying, and knowing that you made a mistake, and knowing that you feel dumb, and knowing that you feel like this thing should have been avoided. Knowing all those things, and knowing that those things still don't define you. Like, knowing that your mistakes and your flaws and your shortcomings and where you fell short, that those things are not who you are. And then being able to say, question it, being able to question the reality of that. What kind of impact does that actually have in my life? Like, is this something that's actually sustainable, or is it something that I'm giving more flame to than it deserves? I think for a lot of us, we have that problem. Like, we let our thoughts run rampant. And I know, as an overthinker myself, that there are times where I look at those things and I just let them grow. I let them fester. I fan the flame of that because I make that my thought. But the more you learn about this, the more you address it, the more you say, listen, this thing does not have power. I'm able to look at this thing and know that, yes, I made a mistake, but I'm not defined by it. And when we heal, when we learn to heal through this, we learn to find wisdom in the things that we've done. And does it mean that you're going to be perfect tomorrow? Probably not. You're going to probably fail and fall quite a few times. But when you're able to sit in this and say, this thing is not the end all be all, it's not all the authority of who I am, you're able to find the positive in it. You're able to look at the mistakes you made and say, well, let's not do that again. Let's grow from this. What happens next? Healing isn't linear. It doesn't mean that you are going to be perfect tomorrow. It doesn't mean that you're going to have every detail done. But it does mean that at some point, when you start caring for you, when you start doing the things that hurt, or going through the motion, knowing that there is hurt in healing, when you start actually doing those things, you start giving yourself the best chance to be the best version of you. You start identifying these things in you that can just be catalysts as to a better life, and not just a struggle as to the thing you're in. I know that for a lot of people, there are so many things that are just stumbling blocks. They're just in the way. And as we heal, as we grow, as we change, as we make the best version of us a reality, because again, that's the whole hope and goal for this podcast. And yes, we have episodes with other people and they tell us their mountains and their struggles and the things they've gone through. But my only hope with this podcast is what I've seen happen before, where people receive even the smallest nugget to help them be better people, to help them change, to help them just be this productive person that they can be, and address the lies that they've been in, because that's what's happening with a lot of us. Whether you're hearing it from perfect or imperfect people, the reality is that the truth is still the truth. And when you address those things in you, you become the best version of you. You are not stuck in the things